Wow, this is genuinely the most intense reading I have ever conveyed, and I require you to listen closely to this. This isn't meant for a general audience. This is meant solely for you, and I intend that in the absolute truest meaning of the phrase. For the specific individual who just felt a slight constriction in their heart before I utter another phrase, I need you to grasp something highly vital. This is not the type of content you just swipe past. This is a pause everything and pay attention type of instance. A number of you will simply swipe forward and dismiss what you just witnessed. And that is perfectly okay. That is entirely appropriate since this broadcast was never intended for the masses. It was designed for a single nervous system, one unique individual. And if it is resonating within your physical form at this moment, if there is a strange tension in your chest or your hands suddenly became sweaty, that is your validation. No one else receives that sensation, just you yourself. Therefore, rely on your intuition because I have absolutely no clue what is about to emerge. I merely sense it has been lingering in the energetic space the entire day, attempting to locate its recipient, and my intuition suggests it finally succeeded. Here is the primary concept you must comprehend regarding why this reached you today. The majority of individuals are conducting their existences as if they are guided by a malfunctioning navigation system. They are anticipating an automated voice to instruct them precisely on when to pivot, where to halt, and how to dodge every individual obstacle on the path. They surrender control to outside interference, digital networks, familial pressures, and the predetermined path everyone else pursues. However, this transmission is not a navigation system. It functions as a guiding compass. A navigation system dictates where society expects you to travel. A compass indicates where your inner spirit feels drawn to travel, regardless of whether a clear internal path exists. And at this current moment, your spirit is drawing you toward a destination that genuinely terrifies you, isn't it? That is exactly how you recognize its authenticity. All right, I am receiving it too clearly now. I understand you have felt as though you are screaming into an abyss recently. Yet I need you to pay close attention because the cosmos is ultimately responding. The initial energy I am detecting is that you are bearing a heavy burden right clear's throat now. And it is not merely your personal baggage. You are holding on to the emotional remnants of other individuals, former companions, someone who entered with intense speed and borderline recklessness, a person who appeared in your reality like a sudden blaze, completely filled with intensity, but lacking tolerance, and consumed themselves much quicker than you anticipated. And beneath that specific recollection, there lies a more silent inquiry you have been pondering recently, almost in secret, regarding what your true value is when no one is observing and when no theatrical display is required. I believe you are attempting to comprehend a concept that formerly seemed too daunting to vocalize. You are not meant to satisfy everyone. You are definitely not meant to be appealing to every single person. And for an extended duration, certainly. For a prolonged period, you behaved as though you were required to be. You have distributed your energy much like a promotional flyer, offering complimentary portions of yourself to whoever requested them. And I perceive you are at last beginning to withdraw that open invitation. This will serve as a recurring motif for you for some time. Perhaps establishing limits has already become one. Genuine limits, authentic ones, not merely the superficial type. You have been minimizing your presence because you fear surpassing the individuals in your orbit, correct? That anxiety feels genuine, yet it is ultimately an illusion. The concept that similar energies attract one another is not just an adorable phrase. It is simply the way tangible energy operates, and you do not match with every person's energetic vibration. I sense you are a person inherently designed for authenticity in a manner that occasionally induces discomfort in others. a person who illuminates issues that others have collectively decided to focus upon, and clears throat, you likely remain completely unaware that you are even doing it. It occurs organically. You step into a gathering, and immediately the unacknowledged truths are brought to light. That ability has likely been detrimental to you because you have allowed almost anyone to get intimate enough to witness it. This right here represents your validating instant. Incidentally, if you are presently enduring a situation where it seems as though everything in your vicinity is accelerating while you internally feel paralyzed, completely rooted in one spot, immobilized and stagnant, that is precisely what is illuminating within this current reading. Cease searching for external indicators when the most significant alarm is loudly echoing within your own heart right this second. You are not genuinely immobilized. You exist within one of those unique phases where your bright aspects and your darker traits are communicating harmoniously rather than combating one another. And when that phenomenon occurs, you begin finalizing decisions you typically would not make, challenging ones, tough inquiries and choices, decisions that necessitate releasing individuals, old personas, and materials you formerly believed you required to clutch onto for security. I am not here to artificially sweeten this reality. Yes, I possess a specific attitude today. The iteration of yourself that brought you to this point is incapable of carrying you to your next destination. I continuously feel drawn toward a distinct recurring behavior of yours, and I wish to be compassionate yet undeniably direct regarding it. There exists a specific archetype of individual who has repeatedly navigated their way into your existence. A person who appears highly profound and almost spiritually rich upon initial inspection. An individual whose capacity for love appears vast, and you become captivated by that perceived depth every single occurrence. However, once you become deeply involved, once your attachment forms, their true darkness emerges. Gradually initially, then abruptly altogether, and by that point, you have invested far too much to simply depart. These individuals excel incredibly at convincing you that you owe them something, as if your vital force is a liability you are continuously attempting to settle. And I believe this specific cycle is the most significant learning environment you have occupied, repeatedly absorbing the identical teaching through various individuals. You are not indebted to anyone for your company. Absolutely no one holds the right to invoice you simply for existing in their vicinity. I additionally wish to acknowledge a sensitive element here, because I genuinely feel it serves as the foundational core for much of this cycle. I do not believe you were ever instructed that affection could exist with boundaries while remaining authentic. I suspect deep inside you there resides a conviction, an ancient one, dictating that if affection carries stipulations or must be worked for, it ceases to be genuine affection altogether. It becomes a mere exchange. Consequently, you have dedicated a substantial amount of time surrendering yours without restriction. No prerequisites were necessary because a fragment of your soul recalls a manifestation of affection that required absolutely no effort to acquire. That aspect of your character is truly gorgeous. It could sincerely represent one of the most magnificent qualities you possess. However, you are not residing in that specific dimension of reality at this moment. You inhabit a space that operates under alternative regulations. And I perceive this current chapter of your journey is fundamentally about you ultimately comprehending the genuine mechanics of reality, rather than the ones you desire were accurate. And by stating this, I imply you operate on a particular wavelength, a highly specialized one. And in order for individuals to genuinely connect with you and access your authentic self, they must elevate themselves to match it. They are not permitted to merely arrive and demand entry. That has served as one of the most grueling teachings of your existence, because it requires prioritizing yourself instead of seeking universal approval. And I suspect for an extensive period, you felt fearful that prioritizing yourself equated to forsaking those who depended on you. That is not the case. It truly is not. It simply means you cease taking on burdens that were never yours to shoulder. Indeed, a significant bereavement exists within your history. I continuously find my focus dragged toward it. Therefore, we should explore that. I suspect you have endured a situation where someone transitioned to the other side, perhaps prematurely or in a surprising manner. And I truly do not believe that sorrow merely wounded you. I actually believe it constructed you. Naturally, it was a deeply agonizing chapter of time. I suspect prior to that tragedy, you were existing almost exclusively for the benefit of others, so deeply attuned to everyone else's requirements that you were not even completely engaged in your personal existence, almost as if you were physically present, yet mentally absent. And I believe that sorrow fractured something open that ultimately permitted you to inhabit your physical form for the very first time, even though it likely required years. Yes, perhaps nearly 10 years. However, I believe you have arrived at a surprisingly prosperous space currently, even though it might not constantly appear completed presently. Here is where the situation becomes captivating, because I am also detecting something approaching rapidly, a divine union, and I signify truly rapid as if the transitional phase scarcely exists. What if I revealed to you that the postponement you have been enduring was actually a necessary divergence to shield you, since that is exactly what is transpiring here? Yet prior to delving into that, I wish to conclude identifying this deceptive cycle because it holds significance. I suspect you have interacted with deception, deceitful individuals across nearly all sectors of your existence, platonic connections, artistic ventures, intimate companions, and even individuals you performed significant labor beside. And I strongly sense that at some point on your journey, you ceased completely believing in union as a valid notion, which certainly makes total logical sense. You were scorched by individuals who appeared secure, but were utterly otherwise. Perhaps you have studied every piece of literature regarding personal limits, anything you could physically acquire. Perhaps you were raised in the presence of profoundly toxic caretakers. I wish to state explicitly that I am not offering a medical diagnosis for anyone. I am not doing so, and none of us ought to be tossing around medical terminology as if it represents a verified truth. We are conversing regarding behavioral cycles and inclinations here, because truthfully, every single one of us harbors some self-focused behaviors in a society constructed on individual marketing and endless self-display. Nevertheless, the behavioral cycle you have endured is factual, and it has molded you. The truth is, however, that entire phase was not squandered. It functioned as necessary readiness. It forged the precise iteration of yourself who is currently equipped to stand beside someone who has endured something equally burdensome without either individual crumbling under the weight of it. And this upcoming segment is the one causing my hands to tremble slightly just as I voice it out loud. Therefore, please stay with me. The absolute initial visual that arrived for you in this transmission, preceding everything else, was a vision of complete forward progression, unadulterated kinetic energy, an individual being propelled by their inner trajectory, regardless of whether they consciously register it or otherwise. That specific type of force merely emerges when a person's brightness and darkness are authentically harmonized, similar to someone who is not merely acting balanced but genuinely experiencing it. And whenever that unfolds, you tend to perturb other individuals, albeit not intentionally. You simply operate at a higher velocity than the surrounding environment is accustomed to experiencing. You have achieved harmony with your personal darkness. You examine it directly. You do not recoil from it. and that severely disturbs individuals who have not yet undertaken that identical internal labor on their own souls. Therefore, if it appears as though no one in your vicinity comprehends what you are currently experiencing, that is precisely the reason you are operating on your unique schedule, progressing onward. Even during moments when it feels as though you are motionless, the entirety of your environment is gathering speed. Whatever your personal interpretation of success metrics increasing entails, chances, revenue, acknowledgement, or forward motion in your tangible career, it is already in motion. You may simply not perceive it yet, because you are the individual remaining stationary in the epicenter of the storm. All right, all right. The incoming union. We Clear's Throat must discuss this companion, because this is the segment I have been reserving for the entire duration. This individual has endured immense hardship as well, authentically suffered through it. Not a minor romantic disappointment, nor a simple tale of drifting apart, but rather something that fundamentally brought them to their knees, and miraculously, in spite of that trauma, I continuously perceive that this individual has also been astoundingly blessed in different facets of their existence. Success arrived swiftly for them, almost as if their entire trajectory was activated prematurely and simply continued to reveal itself. However, profound romantic devastation located them regardless, and I suspect this is the peculiar aspect of their situation. I believe it unfolded in a somewhat exposed manner, where individuals in their vicinity formed judgments regarding it. Perhaps they were eventually even subtly ridiculed for the intensity with which they cherished someone who lacked merit. There exists a strong probability that this individual authors texts or consumes literature relentlessly, or perhaps the two of you locate one another via written language in some fashion. A text, a digital note, a piece of writing that neither party anticipated would hold significance. You will recognize them instinctively. You will sense their presence the moment you encounter them. That is not a figurative statement. That is entirely factual. If this revelation feels like it is striking a sensitive core, that is excellent, very good. That is the exact point where true recovery commences. If there remains a minimal chance of you questioning whether a current prospect is the correct one, then they are not. It is not that individual yet. You will simply comprehend it in the identical manner you recognize your own given title. This individual harbors an ancient spiritual density within them, as if they have traversed primordial locations in past eras. Monuments predating documented chronology. Monuments constructed with a level of accuracy and knowledge that modern society still struggles to adequately interpret today. There exists an aura surrounding them that seems like it does not completely originate from this current timeline. A vibration that feels, how can I best describe it? A vibration that feels tethered to vanished or overlooked innovations. Ancient societies that comprehended truths regarding the cosmos, that humanity is merely beginning to uncover anew in the present. I continuously feel drawn towards that celestial glass gem, the emerald-colored one. Individuals discuss that generates exclusively when an object from the cosmos crashes into the soil and vibrates with energy, because that perfectly mirrors the interaction between the two of you, the cosmos colliding with the dirt. Indeed, the cosmos colliding with the dirt. And that specific mineral holds a notoriety for completely inverting individuals' existences in a single night, eliminating everyone who is not destined to remain rapidly, occasionally with brutal swiftness, ensuring that exclusively the individuals who authentically align with your vibration are left upright. It is never a mild process. It is not a gradual disappearance. It resembles more closely your entire existence crumbling apart just adequately enough so it can reassemble itself in the proper alignment. I do not believe you have encountered an intimate bond thus far that authentically parallels your true vibration. Every previous bond, I suspect, has been more earthly, more conventional, and more tethered to this physical realm than you are at your core. This upcoming one is fundamentally distinct. When the two of you connect, there will be an undeniable spark of familiarity, not precisely romantic flutters, but rather akin to identifying the precise contour of endurance mirrored in another individual's gaze. You will both comprehend immediately the immense effort required for the other individual to simply arrive in that shared space. And here lies the segment that I believe represents the true core pulse of this entire transmission. Your boundaries, your sharper boundaries, the darker aspects of your character that you have been forced to reconcile with, will encounter their illumination in a manner that mends an ancient wound, and their darker aspects will encounter your illumination in the identical fashion. It does not resemble two individuals completing one another in the traditional storybook manner. It is more akin to two jigsaw fragments that were sliced from entirely distinct boards, yet somehow miraculously interlock. There exists a softer aspect to this dynamic as well, and I wish to vocalize it because it is truly endearing. This individual is going to become utterly and almost humiliatingly fixated upon you, not in an artificial manner, nor a disturbing manner, but an inability to cease pondering your existence manner. I repeatedly received this vision of an individual finally acquiring the single nourishment they were unaware they were desperately craving. They are going to adore qualities within you that other individuals have subtly condemned you for during your history. The depth, your unique design, the alignment of you both, and rather than requesting you to minimize your essence, they will declare it audibly, prematurely, and without prompting, leaving you resting there, wondering, hold on, no one has ever spoken to me in that manner previously. It will register as a profound validation, something that absolutely nothing and nobody else could have ever supplied to your soul. This phenomenon is approaching rapidly for you. I wish to be transparent regarding that fact. I can perceive it radiating within your aura. You are exhausted by the near misses and the incomplete timings. Well, the present moment has finally arrived. I suspect your counterpart might be experiencing some nervousness currently, perhaps more than is typical for them, clears throat, and I believe a portion of the reason is that your spirit, the sheer magnitude of it, the absolute magnanimity of it, is going to serve as a healing elixir to their soul. Not a pleasant addition, but a literal healing elixir, the singular element in existence that they are unable to purchase, unable to forge, and unable to deceive their way into obtaining. That is precisely what will render this dynamic completely unique from anything either of you has endured in the past. A certain energy is gaining momentum for you right at this moment in a highly tangible, highly instant manner, and I suspect it is tethered directly to that internal flame. You have been silently fortifying your inner knowing, your primal reflexes, and your visceral feelings regarding your personal journey, and it is not a gentle, warm-toned type of flame. It is the intensely azure type, the specific variant that exclusively radiates that hue because it is combusting at a much higher temperature than is standard that completely embodies you at this moment. I believe all of the parameters setting, all of the perceptive choices, all of the grueling life lessons, it was not meaningless torment. It was rigorous preparation. It was expanding your tolerance to carry this level of profundity without fracturing beneath its weight, because you required that specific tolerance before this individual could genuinely materialize. If they have suffered open romantic wounds previously, there exists a genuine probability that a portion of that past judgment will trail them into this new dynamic. Perhaps a degree of that intensity will fall upon you simply through connection. However, you are already fully ignited. You are already an inferno. Supplementary fire will not extinguish your spirit. It merely supplies additional combustion material and one final concept before I release this transmission. I believe this individual is destined to transform into a ferocious guardian of yours, not due to you possessing a delicate nature. Negative. You are incredibly resilient. It is because you have invested so much time guarding everyone else that you completely lost touch with what it is like to have an individual shield you for a change. I am aware you are weary of serving as the resilient pillar for every other person. Today, an individual is ultimately deciding to be resilient on your behalf. I am unsure if it stems from their assets, their inherent character, or simply their fundamental identity. But I continually perceive this undeniable, unwavering, soldier-like aura enveloping them. An individual who will anchor their stance beside you and refuse to yield. You do not require 1,000 additional individuals to place their faith in you. You merely need to cease acting as the singular individual who refuses to do so, and that remains the core foundation of everything I am perceiving in this moment. Indeed, absolutely nothing of that nature, nothing of what emerged is demanding that you seek out this individual, pursue an emotion, or artificially accelerate a schedule. That is not how any portion of this truly functions. And truthfully, pursuit is the exact antithesis of what is being requested of you currently. What is required of you is much more subtle and subdued than such actions. Simply continue performing the actions you are currently undertaking. Continue reinforcing those personal perimeters. Continue observing when your physical form signals a refusal even before your voice can articulate it. Continue selecting the iteration of your soul that refuses to distribute entry as if it carries no cost, because it never truly lacked a cost. It merely appeared costless because you had not yet recognized your true value.